everyone, my name is Cherise and I'm a children's librarian with the Tacoma Public Library. And in today's STEAM video, we will be polishing pennies and making some fireworks in a jar. So for our first activity, we'll be polishing pennies. And did you know that in 1886, the Statue of Liberty was built in the US and it was a gift from France? And originally, the color of the Statue of Liberty was like a dull penny, so dull brown. So I'm imagining maybe something about like that. And then over time, because of oxidation, which is oxygen's reaction to certain metals, it has become the green color, has like green patina that we know today. So pennies also oxidize, and we're going to be polishing some and cleaning them up so they look like new again. So I have some pennies here that are newer, and you can see that they are bright and shiny, and they have some copper in them. And copper is a metal that oxidizes into a green color. And I have a bunch of just dirty pennies, miscellaneous pennies. So if you're like me, you might have a change jar at home, and pennies work really well for cleaning. All right, so for ingredients on this one, I have my dirty pennies. I have white vinegar. I have a glass Pyrex measuring cup. I'm gonna put my pennies in there. You can also use, I recommend something clear so you can kind of see the reaction as it's happening. You can use a clear glass bowl, a different type of bowl that's non-reactive, or a mason jar would be a good idea as well. I have some table salt. I have a 1 teaspoon measuring spoon for the salt. All right, for our first step, we measure out 1/4 cup of white vinegar. So I have that in there. 1/4 cup of white vinegar. We are going to measure 1 teaspoon of our table salt, and then we're going to pour it in there and stir it around until it fully dissolves. And that might take a little bit. So I'm just going to pour my salt, put it in there. I'm just going to use this to stir, I think. So this is probably going to take a little while. Vinegar was just room temperature. Vinegar is an acid. You can see it's dissolving pretty well in there now. It's also good to have some paper towels for when your pennies come out, or something that you can set them on. So you can see that my vinegar is a little cloudy, but the salt is pretty well dissolved in there. So I'm going to dump out some really dirty pennies. Here's a good one. This is really dirty. So what I'm going to do is I am going to dip it halfway in for a few seconds and then show you what it looks like. This actually should start cleaning the pennies pretty instantly. So I'm gonna do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And now you can see that I dipped this in halfway, and halfway is clean, half's clean, half's dirty. A little bit on the back is still a little dirty, but you can see that's just from 10 seconds in the solution. So I'm going to go ahead and just drop that in. I'm going to drop some more really dirty pennies. This penny has some of the malachite, some of the green metal on there from further oxidation. So I'm just going to drop a whole lot of dirty pennies in to polish them. And I'm gonna let this sit for 5 minutes and then come back. And my pennies should be pretty well polished. All right, so my pennies have been sitting in the acid for 5 minutes. And what I'm gonna do is I have a strainer, a little sieve strainer. I'm going to drain them and rinse them in the sink, and then I'm gonna put them on a paper towel to dry, and then we can see how polished I made my pennies. All right, so these are my pennies, and you can see there are some that definitely got a lot more polish than others. That probably just has to do with some of these pennies were really extra dirty. Like you can tell this one is a little bit polished in places, but not all the way. I think with more time, they definitely would have all gotten super shiny and clean, but we definitely have some that got really shiny and clean. And this was only after 5 minutes. And our acid was pretty weak, just some white vinegar and table salt. So you can imagine what a stronger acid might do in 5 minutes, but ours was pretty weak. So a fun experiment would be to leave them in for a longer amount of time. So go ahead and see what happens after 10 minutes, or 20 minutes, or 12 hours if you want. So this activity called Penny Shiners, I have included a link to in the description, and you can actually, when you are going to take your pennies out after 5 minutes, you actually can rinse half and not rinse the other half. And those that you have not rinsed, you can actually leave out in the oxygen, and they will form malachite. So they'll get the green patina like the Statue of Liberty. So you'll start to see after probably a few days, you'll start to see little green spots on your pennies. So that's a really fun step. We basically took some dirty pennies and polished them up. And then if you don't rinse them off and you leave the acid on there and let them kind of dry with the acid, they will start to oxidize and get little green malachite spots on them. So you can basically make your pennies clean, polish them up, and then make them dirty and make them have little green spots on them, which is kind of cool. For our next steam activity, I will show you how to make fireworks in a jar. So I have a 16-ounce mason jar, the smaller size. I have filled it up with room temperature water, leaving a good amount of space at the top, as you can see. You need some sort of vegetable oil. I had some rice bran oil. You need 2 ounces, about a 1/4 cup. I have poured it into my Pyrex. You're going to be pouring it into your mason jar, so you want something that you can pour with, and this pours really easily. You need food coloring. I have this fun neon food coloring. And you need a fork to do some stirring. So the first step is to measure out your 2 ounces or a 1/4 cup of your vegetable oil. So I have that in my Pyrex there. I'm going to add a few drops of different colors of food coloring in different areas. So I'm going to do 3 drops of blue up here. 2, 3. I'm going to do some green. You can do whatever colors you like, as many colors as you like. Just going to do 3 drops of my 4 colors in the different corners. And as you can see, the food coloring is kind of suspended in there. That's because food coloring is made of water, and water and oil don't mix, so they'll always be separated. So you might be wondering, how is this going to work? And we're going to show you. So very gently, you want to take your fork and try to break up some of the bigger drops if you can. Don't worry about it too much though, and you want to leave different sizes if you can. not the easiest thing to do because, like I said, oil and water don't mix on their own. So the next step is we're going to take our mason jar of water, we're going to pour our oil in, and we want the oil to rest on top. So we're going to very carefully pour it, kind of trickling on the side so that it gently sits on the top. And your food coloring is going to come at the end. There it goes. And you can see that the food coloring is in the oil right now. But give it some time, probably about 30 seconds, and we're going to see what happens. And now we can see that some of the water is starting to drop below the oil and create little explosions of color, aka our fireworks going off. You see all different colors mixing in there. I use 4 different colors. That big explosion of blue is really pretty. That kind of came all at once, it looks like. I'll show you what it looks like from the top. So this would also be, like I said, fun in a larger mason jar so that you have kind of some more viewing room. You can do all sorts of different colors, different amounts of colors, different amounts of big dots or small dots that you kind of break up with your fork. And it's just really fun to watch all the colors explode. So I added a lot of food coloring and I didn't have that big of a volume of water. So my water is basically kind of mixing, and it's mostly like blue and purple, like pretty vividly, which is pretty cool. And it's not done yet. I don't know if you can see, there's a lot of food coloring still left that needs to go down. But this is a pretty cool activity, a really safe way for even young kids to watch some fireworks. So thank you so much for watching. Please keep your eye on our Tacoma Public Library YouTube page where we will be posting more storytime and STEAM activity videos for you. Thanks, everyone.